Coming up next, DC News number 106, a Creative Differences episode. I've heard that somewhere before. And we're going to be talking about Static Shock and why John Rosen finally left the book and what his plans were, which never materialized, of course, because he left the book.
Also, Creative Differences.
Creative Differences. And we're also going to talk about Alan Moore and the Watchmen and why he may be thinking about suing DC for Before Watchmen and whether or not it's a good idea to take a concept like that and just pound it into the ground.
Creative Differences?
Stick around.
When DC Comic Books does something, Bo just can't wait to tell you. Squealer.
Civilized society. When does that kick in? DC Comic Book News, episode 106, Pavilion of Pancakes.
Hey folks, Comic Book Man here. Welcome once again to my video outhouse. It's time for
DC News!
DC News 106, another Creative Differences episode from the fine folks at the Video Outhouse, which is coming to you from Alternate Reality right here, which is located at the intersection of 111th and Kedzie in beautiful downtown Mount Greenwood. Alternate Reality, where all my new comics are always 15% off every day for everyone, including Static Shock, the canceled Static Shock. As long as new issues are coming out. 7's the last one, right?
6.
6. Oh, it's out already, I think.
It's gone.
Okay, it's done. Well, never mind that. It was 15% off, but all the rest of my DC comics are always 15% off every day for everyone. And our first story up in Creative Differences involves Static Shock, of course, which is why I'm mentioning him and talking about him. Bo,
Yes?
what happened on that book? It turned into a creative train wreck at the end.
Well, John Rosen left the book after the first issue shipped.
Now, what did John Rosen do?
He was the writer. He also did Zombie. Okay. He left the book, he said, because DC decided that artist Scott McDaniel's ideas and the editor of the book's ideas were way better than his. And so what ended up happening after he turned in the paperwork for the first issue, for the second issue, they really just wanted him to do dialogue, and they wanted to go into this high-concept crime syndicate idea and do things like rip the character's arm off. None of which was what he wanted to do, because Rosen had this generalized idea of making this the inroads for people to start giving a crap about the Milestone universe again.
Good idea.
And he got hardware in there, and that was his idea. But then he just felt incredibly uncomfortable. So after the first issue shipped, he made it quite clear he was leaving the book, and he didn't want to talk about it. But people kept asking him about it.
Yeah.
And so he finally posted on his blog, "This is why I left. They basically pretended that they didn't need me to be there. They didn't like anything I was doing. They wanted to basically make the books into crap." And so he decided to walk away. Now, Scott McDaniel goes...
But did they make the books into crap?
The problem with Static
That's
Shock
how he felt. But did they actually make the books into crap?
Well, I think what he wanted to do is
It was canceled, wasn't it?
Well, it was canceled after 6.
Oh, okay.
Because but at the point in which he was working on it when it started, DC had great ideas and they thought this was going to be a big deal.
Well,
the other problem could be the Mouse universe. That stuff just doesn't sell. So.
I think you might find some folks out there who would argue with you about that, especially how the characters are handled.
Well, he wanted to handle the characters in a much more classy Dwayne McDuffie kind of way, and Scott McDaniel.
Dwayne McDuffie was a damn good writer.
And Scott McDaniel and the editor of the book, Harvey something, didn't really feel that it had to be like that.
What did they feel the book had to be like?
They feel it should be like just cookie cutter sausage, Static against the crime syndicate.
Oh, okay.
Which is full of nothing but character.
Grind it out, hump it out.
Right, grind it out, hump it out, get the book on the rack, and if people buy it, great. And if people don't buy it, well, what the hell? Let's move on.
Okay. Well,
and they moved on because the book got killed.
Okay. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Which would make me wonder what's going on with Milestone. Apparently nothing.
Nothing.
Okay. So much for the great revamp of Milestone.
Nothing.
Creative Differences, moving on. Our big story for Creative Differences is, of course, Alan Moore and Before Watchmen. Now, most of you might think that Alan Moore doesn't care about Before Watchmen because, every other one of his properties or projects that have either gone to film or that they've done something with in the past, his attitude's been, I'm washing my hands of it, do whatever you want. The original work stands by itself, on its own, and speaks for itself. Does he still feel that way?
Well, he does feel that way, but because people kept asking him how he felt about Before Watchmen, he said, okay, I'll tell you what I think. He said the project reeks of desperation.
Yes.
And won't work because he said a lot of people online are really upset about this, and they think that it's just sacrilege that they would do something like this. He also revealed that his original Watchmen contract had a clause in it that stated that in the future, if there were any documents or contracts he refused to sign,
yes,
DC's lawyers could sign them for him.
Oh.
So his lawyer said that's probably the worst looking contract I've ever seen. It came off as he said that was the biggest anti-creator contract he'd ever seen in his life.
Yeah.
Now Moore says that he still thinks it's a bad idea. He thinks it's not going to work. He might sue DC over the idea of doing it, but he says if he does take them to court,
if that's what his contract said, what would he have?
well,
Basically,
he can sue them for making something else without. Well, before he could sue, say that that contract can't be enforced because if I'm not signing it, then you don't really have my permission to do it.
Oh, that's right. That's right. DC signed it for him.
Right. So he go.
But he said you could sign it.
Well, no, his contract said it, but he said he would sue not for any financial gain. He doesn't give a crap about the money. He's suing because he said he might sue just because he objects to the entire idea of doing something like this. He also has made it quite clear.
He didn't get too worked up about League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
He didn't get too worked up about League of Extraordinary Gentlemen because he took it somewhere else.
Well, yeah.
You know,
I'm thinking of the movie.
Right. Well, then when he said, you know, and that was part of the, you know, another in the long line of things that DC went out of their way to do to just annoy the crap out of him. In fact, you know, he doesn't even have a copy of Watchmen in his house. No trades, no comics, no nothing. He's washed his hands of the whole thing. Now, what's really interesting about this is that Dave Gibbons, who apparently doesn't have a problem with this, Dave Gibbons isn't saying a lot of anything.
Well, Dave Gibbons hasn't said a lot of anything about this from the beginning.
Right. He sort of said, well, I'm honored that they would do stuff like this.
Yeah.
And the moment that Moore talked about how his feelings about all this was concerned.
You're honored that you would.
Right, you're honored. Yeah, because he gets a cut of that thing. Well, he gets all the money.
You're honored that you would.
Aren't we all trying to
You're
work?
really honored that you would take
Aren't we all
that.
trying to work
You're
for a living?
really honored. Now, give me that pick.
Isn't that the idea?
Well, and Moore doesn't want any money out of it anyway.
No.
Moore, I mean, he said, let you guys do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is, once Moore talked about this, when he actually talked about it, Dan DiDio and Jim Lee made almost at the speed of light, said, hey, we intend to honor the concept, and we don't know why Alan doesn't like it, and we're sorry that Alan doesn't like it, but we're doing this because we're fans.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
It's still my work. People want to see
People
these characters.
will, no.
and
People will
other-
pick it up because of the people working on the books.
Sure.
But people who bought the trade,
Bottom line is, all DC cares about is what are the sales on the book going
Right,
to be.
right.
If you're picking it up because you like the way the staples are folded, DC's happy. DC doesn't care.
if you're picking it up because you like the logo that's on the book, fine. Just buy the damn thing
Buy
and
the
we'll
damn
take the
thing.
money.
Pretty much, yeah.
But
But
Yeah, who's
that's
got a
what they
problem
do
with
for a
that?
living.
And
That's what they do for a living. There's nothing wrong. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. They make comics. If you're going to buy the comics, whatever your reason for buying the comics, God knows there are more than enough people out there who buy comics who never open the damn things up, seal them up, put them away in a box, and plan on selling them someday. Doesn't matter what's in between the covers of the book.
and I'll be willing to bet that most of the people who are picking up the trade, because it's like the number one selling comic book trade of all time, and Amazon continually sells the thing, and people sell the movie, those people probably won't even touch this thing with a pole, with a long pole.
Well, probably not, but you know. But you know what they might do? They might pick up the trades.
They might pick up the trades, but
They might boycott the comic and pick up the trades.
I think if you go into a store or if you look it up online and you see the trade listed, you don't see the name Alan Moore on it. You're gonna go, why would I buy this?
Because you got good writers and good artists working.
Yeah,
on it.
but those are not. But none of those guys are Alan Moore.
Well, no, those guys are Alan Moore, but
You know,
it's-
Alan Moore's
But
a
the books
brand.
will all say
Right.
Watchmen on them.
Right.
And I'm sure they'll have the smiley button with the blood splatter,
Right.
and they'll all be yellow and black, and you know you'll recognize all the characters in it if you're familiar at all with the book.
So let
so
me
there
get
you
you
go.
straight, Paul. The only thing you're saying is Alan Moore's the only guy to write a comic book.
No, but I'm saying that Watchmen was a really fun. It's 12 issues. The story's over with.
Sure.
I don't need to know what happened before. I don't need to know what happened after. This is the book. It's done. You don't need to go back and tell us, well, this is how they got here. We kind of can figure out where they got
Well,
here.
there's a couple of stories that are like that. Kingdom Come comes to mind.
Yeah.
I mean, not that. I mean, it's based on the DC universe, but I mean, you don't really need to know what happens previously before it, and they give you enough information in there to set you up, like the death of Lois and the destruction of
Yeah,
Daily
I mean,
Planet
you-
by Joker and all.
I
that.
mean, you pick up a copy.
And as far as what happens afterwards, like Kingdom,
yeah, it's like, why?
yeah, exactly.
The
why.
story's over with. You're done. You know.
I was talking
or
to
Marvels too. The story's over with. It's done.
I was talking to someone earlier today. We were talking about Gone with the Wind and how they did a sequel to Gone with the Wind on TV. Remember that?
Yeah,
Nobody even remembers that, but people do remember those Gone with the Wind.
and there was a prequel book. Or the Puzo family is suing over. The Puzo family is about to get sued because they did They did 2 Godfather follow-up novels,
Yeah.
which Puzo didn't have anything to do with. And there's even a Godfather video game. It's like some stories, once they're done, they're done. You don't need to tell me anything else. I read it.
But how do you know that unless you go back to that well?
Well,
You go back to the well and you drain the well till the well is dry.
well,
You
I mean,
don't know until you go back
but
to the book comes
if
up
you
empty.
picked up, if you picked up, you picked up the comics, you go, okay, these guys are together, and you already know why they broke up. You don't need to. We don't need to tell. We don't need the story laid out in a 3-issue limited series why they're not together. We kind of figured that out.
The only way
already.
we'll know that is when you see it come out and see if it's any good. Because it's still a possibility that might be.
Well, there is a comic book company out there that when they have a concept like that should be left alone, they pound it into the ground, and that, of course, would be Marvel.
Oh, like DC does it.
Oh, well, not like Marvel does.
The Kingdom. Oh, okay.
No, okay, the Kingdom. Okay, you got Marvel Zombies. They have pounded that concept right into the ground, and there's yet another one
Because
coming in the current
zombies
previews.
are cool.
And they're down to Howard the Duck and Dum Dum Dugan being the central characters
Because-
for that Marvel Zombie
Because
series that's
zombies
coming
are
up.
cool.
No,
not
see,
exclusive.
Marvel, you're Marvel apologists, ladies and gentlemen.
It's
You're
not
Marvel
exclusive.
apologists,
It's not
right?
DC does, and if DC wants to do a
It's
something
not
like
exclusive
that.
to Marvel. Look what who does Green Hornet.
Yeah, look at Green Hornet.
I mean, they pound.
Well-
nobody pounded anything into the ground more than.
Yeah,
Who does Green-
Dynamite pounded Green Hornet
my
into the
God.
into the ground, but there was nothing out on the Green Hornet for almost 20 years previous to that. And then previous to that, there was nothing out for God knows how long.
And then they
The
made-
Green Hornet doesn't have this long
And then
publishing
they made
history.
up for that by
I was watching.
overpublishing.
Well, yeah, but you can make an argument that there wasn't much material out there in the first place, and there was a hole to be filled. Now, having said that, it would have been nice if they'd filled the hole a little bit slower than what they did. But what can I say?
Yeah, we got Green Hornet, and we got the old Green Hornet, and we got Kate.
Green Hornet and Green Hornet
Green
Strikes.
Hornet.
and
It's
Green
like
Hornet.
Green Hornet in the future. It's like how many Green Hornet stories do we need?
I don't know how many will people buy.
Anyway,
Right.
just
Well,
But that's for indie news and indie news over 106.
DC News.
But in indie news,
In indie news. Yes.
we're going to talk more about Dynamite.
Yes.
The
Dynamite.
Indie news number 106, which will also be creative differences.
Big creative differences.
So be sure to check that out. In the meantime, go to the store's website. Bo, tell them where it is because that's where all your news is.
It's on the internet.
There you go.
where the.
Turn your
www.myalternatereality.com. It's almost like a real website.
So stop off at the store's website. Check out all his news. Till next time, this is Comic Book Man,
This is the steam-powered guy.
the steam-powered
Steam
guy,
powered.
saying bye. Hey, you want to save 20% off of everything in the store? Then show up on the 20th of every month because the 20th is Founders Day here at Alternate Reality. And on Founders Day, everything except this week's new comics and bulk supplies is 20% off. That's right, every single thing in the store is 20% off every 20th here at Alternate Reality.
The Video Outhouse is brought to you by some of the finest people willing to work for free. This is a list of some of them.